All right. Okay, we good? We've launched on various platforms. Fantastic, we're good to go. Okay, countdown begins. All right. We're on, guys. Okay, we're starting. What did I do?
It's exciting, it's educative and engaging. Get master information on Wisdom Masterclass webinar, 7 o'clock every Sunday evening with your host, Jake Epele, CEO and founder, the Albino Foundation. Wisdom Masterclass webinar live on Zoom, Facebook, and other social media platforms. Topics that will stir you up, take you right to the next level. For more information, send email to jake@albinofoundation.org or call 0803 533 5444. That is 0803 533 5444. Get reality on a virtual platform. Join the virtual trade. Don't be told. Get wisdom only on Wisdom Masterclass webinar, poised to take you to the next level.
Okay, good evening and welcome to Wisdom Masterclass. Today, the 20th day of September 2020. Right on time. My name is Jake Epele, and my guests are already on to stir you up with this vital information. We're looking at facts and fiction about the 5G technology. A lot has been told, a lot has been said. There's a whole lot of myth and, of course, truth about the 5G technology. And today I have experts chosen from expert industries, the MTN and Huawei, both of them are very senior management staff of the organization. Gentlemen, you're welcome to Wisdom Masterclass. Engineer Uche is the General Manager, Operations, MTN, and of course, my good friend Samuel, Engineer Samuel Orji, is the Director, Sales, Digital Energy in Huawei. Sometimes I'm afraid to pronounce the name of your organization, Samuel. Huawei, right? Right?
Huawei.
Okay.
Huawei.
Does that sound Chinese or English? Is that Chinese or English?
Of course, it's Chinese. Huawei. That's actually the right pronunciation.
Huawei?
Yeah, Huawei.
What did they tell you the meaning?
Good, something good, good life or good things.
Fantastic. That's a good way to start. All right, let's go straight and get your interventions, gentlemen. Engineer Uche Osuji, you have the floor.
Good evening, the special audience, and thank you, Mr. Jake, for having me on this special masterclass, facts and fictions, truths and myths about 5G technology. there's no better time than now. A lot has been said about 5G, a lot has been heard, and this has generated a lot of interest, and this is very important. And 5G is something that is being discussed and implemented globally. So there's no better time than now for all of us to decipher the realities, the truth, the myths, and the facts about 5G. I had one experience, during the time this daytime running light came out for the first time. Those days, I live in Lagos, so you drive on the third mainland, suddenly, as it's getting to the evening, the headlights of a car will come on. And, a lot of people were wondering, what is this? And suddenly we are told it is driven by a special class of cult people, that once they see you in the evening, the light will come up and flash you. And if you flash them back, you will get sick or something will happen to you, or you become their victim of sacrifice and all the rest of them. In modern time. So over time, of course, it became something everybody had. Almost every car today has daytime running light. And we begin to wonder the thinking, the reasoning behind this kind of illustrations and how almost very intelligent and rational people believed it. So this is one of the reasons why we are here to talk about 5G. What is it? What is it about to do? What is going on globally? Does 5G cause problem? Does it not cause problem? Is it the cause of some of the problems we have today? Does it have any relationship with Corona, COVID-19? Is that why they are laying cables or not? I mean, what is the relationship between these things that happen? And I'm delighted to be here because 5G is something happening globally. So today we'll do justice to that and we'll let Nigerians know what is 5G, what is not 5G, what 5G stands for, and which way to go. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. I'll be back to ask you a few questions, and I'm sure the audience are listening, and many of them will have one or two questions to ask. Sam, you have the floor.
All right, good evening, enlightened audience. Once again, my name is Sam Oji. I'm glad to join this discussion tonight. I think basically we're here to change the narrative about most of the misgivings about the 5G network. Tonight, I hope to share more of the benefits. I think I'll dwell more on the benefits of the 5G in line with technology evolution. And so I'd like us to sit back and relax, and as much as possible, please be open to ask as many questions as possible so that we can break every myth, so that we can change the whole narrative about the negative perception about the 5G network. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. I have heard a lot about 5G and sometimes, scary things about 5G. And unfortunately, people who are carrying this rumor and, holding on to this conversation don't even know what 5G is. So, Uche, let me start by asking you to give us elementary definition of what 5G is.
Thank you. I'll keep it as simple as it is, okay? 5G is simply the latest technology which is following the technologies we had known, the 4Gs, the 5G, the 3Gs, and the 2Gs of this world. If you remember, not very long ago, we used to have some telephones. People could dial using different type of lines that we used to call analog, which was like the first generation of telephones. Then, of course, we used to have our Nitel and few other operators then. When the federal government liberalized and we brought in the GSM operators and gave licenses out to operators, they came with what was known as the GSM then, which is the 2G technology, second generation of mobile networks. That's what 2G is. And that technology, of course, was basically to help us communicate with voice. And some of the circuitry, communication services like SMS, as it were. Now that technology evolved and moved to the next generation, which was now 3G from the 2G that was. In fact, before we went to 3G, we stopped over at 2.5G, if you remember, when we started talking about GPRS. You see GPRS on your phone, you're so excited. Later on to Edge, that we started calling it 2.5G or 2.5G plus, and we were excited about it. So that was the second generation with additional features. And what the second generation did, the 2.5G, was to give us basic introduction into some data, so you could do some of the WAP or GPRS services, that was quite slow, and as it were. Then it looked like end of the world when it was introduced. Now we moved over to third generation, which is 3G, which most of us will be very familiar with now. So 3G helped us to do a lot of data, especially browsing, of course, improving significantly from the 2.5G we had. So effectively, 3G became a break in technology from 2G, where emphasis was more on data and less on voice, whereas 2G was voice and less on data. Now, of course, as we started doing this, we had multimedia on 3G. You could download, play music, became something slow. If you couldn't do video very well. And later on, 4G, which is the fourth generation packet, which some of us call LTE, which is where we are today. And gradually, organizations, countries are now moving to 4G. So what 4G brought was strictly data, more, and then we could do a lot of videos. Today, people do a lot of video games, video interactions. So 4G, but it was the fourth generation before the fifth generation. What you will notice in the transition of these generations of technology is added advantage, that comes with the technology, especially with the speed of transmission. So, whereas of course during the 2G era, you could just send your SMSs, do basic data. During the 3G, you could do a lot of data. Then in 4G, you could do video. The significant thing that was moving in all of them is the speed at which those things were coming. So while we were in 2G, you could do, we are talking of 50 to 100 kbps speed, which then looked fine. When we went to 3G, we started talking about in hundreds of megabits per second, 50 megabits, and also speed. Then when we went to 4G, we started talking of hundreds of megabits per second and speeds as low as 50 milliseconds. And then we are talking about 5G. So the significant thing is that in each of them, the two key features that change will be what we call the speed, which is either the latency and the throughput. So latency being how long or how short your communication or your information is transmitted from point A to B. While bandwidth or throughput is how quickly can you collect information and what size of information can you collect over time, which we call throughput, measured in either kilobits or megabits per second. Then, of course, we now get to where we are, what we're discussing today, which is our 5G, which is significantly better than the 2Gs, 3Gs, and 4Gs, both in terms of speed and in terms of latency and in terms of connection. So 5G, broadly speaking, apart from just being the next technology after the 5G, apart from being the next technology after the 4G, offers 4 or 5 significant differences from the 4G as we know it today. The first one is the latency, like I've said, which is the speed at which information is transmitted. 5G promises and is delivering a speed of 1 millisecond, a latency of 1 millisecond. This is like 50 times the speed of 4G. So if you used to send information today and you wait for 50 seconds, if you send it on 5G, you wait for 1 second. Now, 5G is also giving high speed, or what we call throughput, in the ranges of gigabits per second, which is the speed that was only available on fiber. So 5G is giving us fiber-like speed over microwave or over the air. So this is like, again, 100 times the speed of 4G. The next thing that 5G actually gives is its ability to connect as many people as possible. You will notice as technology shifted from talking to data, we started moving into industries and automation, whereas 3G will connect your smartphones, 4G will begin to connect some devices, 5G is to connect almost everything. So it's actually a technology that will connect as many things as possible. So some of us over time will be hearing of Internet of Things. That means things will be connected. everything actually is expected to be connected. That is why. So one of the key features or advantages or added benefits of 5G is its ability to connect as many devices, as many things, as many elements as possible. And 5G is expected to collect about 1 million, devices per square kilometer, and that is huge. This is like 100 times what 4G could have connected. Of course, also for those of us who are closer to technology, 5G offers you better spectral efficiency. So if you had 1 megahertz of spectrum, if you had used it on 4G and used it on 5G, you get like 4 times or 3 times better spectral efficiency. And 4G also promises, my friend from Digital Energy knows the importance of the next advantage of 5G, and most of us who are into energy production will know. 5G promises better network energy efficiency, 100 times better than what 4G will give you. So if the power you consume and how it is being used effectively to serve more people, more areas is better managed on 4G. And of course, finally, user experience, which is the actual speed the individual gets, which is his own data throughput. Whether you're downloading a movie, you're streaming online, you're carrying online video conferences and meetings as we're doing today, you have a better experience, taking advantage of all these 5G features I've earlier mentioned. So in a nutshell, this is what 5G is. If you were to relate it and compare it to the previous technologies that we have known from 1G, which is analog, to 4G.
Thank you, Jay. I allowed you to take it to the limit that you have because a lot of people have said about a lot of things about 5G without really knowing what it is. Now, before we go into some of the myth, issues that have been raised, I think it would be best for Sam to jump in and tell us some of the benefits. Energy was mentioned. Will 5G do anything to enhance our power, availability of power and consumption?
All right, thanks. I think Uche has been quite elaborate in describing, the rudiments of 5G. But let me also just jump in a little bit and just say a few things before I come to address the issue of the benefits. I know we have a mixed audience, and so I start from the point of my faith. Something that says the Bible that said knowledge will increase, and later years. So what does that translate to what is happening today? Knowledge will increase means there'll be so much data, there'll be so much information, at our disposal, and how you can collect that information, how you will dispense that information, how you can activate that information. It's all about what this technology has to provide. So in addition to what he said, for 5G today, it's all about smart connectivity. If there's any word that we live here today, is about smart connectivity. Just as he rightly said, that everything will be connected. We're almost passing through what we call the first wave. The first wave of the 5G, which has to do with what we call the enhanced mobile broadband applications. This has to do with things like virtual reality, the drone technology. We see today so much about the drone technology. Video, you're able to transmit video at high speed and all that. And after the first wave, we're getting actually right now into what we call the second wave of the 5G technology application, which has to do what we call the ultra reliable, low latency communication. He talked about latency. Latency is just the speed at which something can react to. And what are the things that we're going to experience in this second wave? We are talking about right now smart manufacturing. All right, we are getting into what we call the IOV, Internet of Vehicle. I don't know how many of us saw in the news. I think in America, a driver who was one of the Tesla vehicle, which was on autopilot, actually reclined the seat and slept off. That vehicle was on autopilot. There was no accident, nothing. But they felt for the fact that the driver should have been quite on board with the steering. But this car has been automated. And so we're getting to that point of driverless vehicles, Internet of Vehicles. Vehicles can communicate to themselves. we are getting to the point of digital healthcare, which is very, very important in this era right now. Talking of telemedicine, a lot of things. People can actually sit in one place and carry out full medical, medical operations and all that, medical attention without having to leave from where they are. So these are the things that the 5G technology application is bringing to bear. And finally, the smart grid, which is where actually I have so much experience in. We're coming to the era of the smart grid, all right? And 5G is helping us to build what we call the smart grid. Today, there is so much development in the area of renewable energy. I hope we know that is actually the future for energy. That is the future for power supply today. Renewable energy, you're going to see a lot of battery systems and solar applications, wind farms and all that coming into play. So there will be a lot of what we call mixed generation. And so what will happen is that ICT is actually converging to make sure that it's seamless transmission of data amongst all the mix of the energy supplies that will be getting into the system. So what are the benefits? The benefits cuts across, be it the financial sector, be it the energy industry, be it for the smart city. We have a lot of issues in terms of security today. With the 5G technology coming into place, we're getting to the point where we're going to build what we call intelligent cities, where everything is interconnected, where you have all the cameras displayed in various points that will be able to capture real-time incidents and also report that. And so 3 things that the 5G has actually brought to bear right now is that, number 1, all things shall sense. What do I mean by that? All things can sense means everything can have data, right from even the smart wristwatch you're wearing on your this thing, to your doorbell camera, to to your vehicle and everything, all right, can transmit data at real time. And the next thing we're going to talk about is that all things can be connected. So 5G enables that connectivity. At the end of the day, we're going to say what we're going to experience is that all things will be intelligent. So the question is, what do you do with data that you have collected? First of all, is data collection, data transmission, and data analysis. So analyze the data you have taken from one point, transmitted from point A to point B, and be able to react on real-time basis. So these are actually the key benefits that that the 5G technology will bear. Sometime last year, I was in China. I was in the lab where I watched a manufacturing scenario, between the 4G network and the 5G network. What happened there was, in terms of placement of chips, today we're getting to the point that where robots are the ones placing all the microchips in our phones and all the smart devices today. And we could see there's a delay for the 5G. There's a delay once an instruction is given to place the chip. All right, on that of the 5G, that delay was not there. And so this is where we are today. We've talked about robotics, we've talked about artificial intelligence, and so these things will be driven by the 5G technology. And finally, the third wave, right? Yeah, the third wave, which is why we're saying we're coming there later. That this is, of course, many years ahead, where we say a fully connected, intelligent world. We are coming to that point. So, but today, we're actually gradually entering into the third wave of the 5G application.
Oh, wow. So let's go back to Engineer, and you have been involved in voice data, connectivity, and all that. Will this technology help to enhance voice communication, the simple telephone? Of late, it's very difficult to even reach the next person. Will this technology enhance this process?
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much. The answer is a straight yes, okay? And let me start from the top before I bring it down. There's what we call ultra high definition voice. I don't know if a lot of us from time ago, there are sometimes when you speak to somebody, you look as if the person is around you. Mm-hmm. And there's a time you speak to somebody as if the person is far away from you. Now, these are all enhancements that come with technology. There has been some enhancements in the speech quality that comes. from the previous technologies. But of course, 5G, I've told you that 5G helps in spectral efficiency and also in management of some of the things we call interference. A lot of people talk about drop calls and all the rest of them. 5G comes with an enhanced features that almost practically removes things like drop call, and speech quality will be fully enhanced because we'll gradually be moving from our voices being circuit switched to being IMS, meaning our voices will be completely end-to-end, carried as if they are data. They only become voice at the end. And this will ensure that the losses that are normally generated over a classical circuit switch network or a slow voice network are fully compensated for and taken care of in the fully digital voice, which is to the end of it IMS. A couple of people would have used voice over IP, which are, different stages of trying to carry our voice as data by, first of all, carrying them as circuits, switching them over and converting them. Now, 5G is to enable you to transmit your voice end to end as data. I would like to remain there because of the mixed audience. So in summary, therefore, if you are communicating on 5G, which will happen as IMS, for instance, you can almost be guaranteed of no drop calls or an enhanced drop call. Your speech quality will be ultra high definition voice. So as I speak to you, the experience you get, like when you're doing high definition video conferences that happen even on 4G, will be much, much better on 5G, that you feel like the person is by your side and the experience is as if you're with the person. So what 5G generally promises is to bring experiences that happen far and bridge the space and time. Whether you're carrying telesurgery, the same speed with which your doctor will lift his hands and drop the surgical blade on you while in the moon or in the United States and you're in Nigeria and the knife drops on the patient at the same time. These features that will come with enhanced broadband throughput, the latencies, and the spectral efficiency of the spectrum of the frequencies we have will all enhance our voice. So the answer is yes, expect a much more improved voice, less drops, better experience.
Okay, gentlemen, let's talk about how beautiful this technology is. We're going to go into what are those myths and why those myths, where did they come from? But before then, Sam, I want to ask you to talk to us about cost implication. We're talking about this beautiful technology and everything. How expensive is it going to be? Is it likely to increase the cost that we're bearing right now in the technological industry? Sam, did I lose you? Sam, can you hear me?
Well, no. I mean, the good thing about technology is that every improvement in technology brings about some level of cost reduction. Every improvement in technology brings about some level of cost reduction because there is improved efficiency on one side. But what is very important, what we should pay attention is that the capital outlay will be huge, because for you to run a 5G network, you need to build sites that are closely, that are quite very close. So you're going to build multiple cell sites. All right. So this is where the cost, the capex might be on the increase, but because at the end of the day, a lot of users will be, there's going to be a lot of users, there's going to be a lot of advantage, coming out of this. So that cost will be somehow shared. We have a lot of people connecting, just like Uche mentioned, for 1 square kilometer, how many devices will be connected? So the risk or the cost will be defrayed at the end of the day. But in terms of capital outlay, there's a huge capital outlay that will be involved in the deployment of the 5G network. But by and large, it will be much Because let me just create one scenario. With the 4G network, for you to download maybe a 2-hour video, all right, it will take you more than 7 minutes. But under the 5G, it takes about 10 seconds. So if you compare that cost of 7 minutes of your data as against 10 seconds of the same capacity, so you can see that the person is actually spending less to download a high volume data, unlike before.
Okay. All right. Well answered. We seem not to have quite a lot of people signed on Zoom, but we have a very good audience on the social media. So let's keep the conversation going. Uche, with all this connectivity, with multiple sites for that we're going to have, and a lot of cell sites that we're going to have, people had wondered the health implication of having several cell sites. Some of them will be at the back of their homes. Are there any health implications to the best of your knowledge?
Thank you so much. I mean, I think this is a vexed topic that has been discussed globally. But before going into 5G, let me even pull back a little, okay, on technologies, whether they're first generation, all manner of transmissions as it were, from the devices we use in our homes, like our microwaves, to the handsets we use today, to the television antennas we have in our houses, to the televisions in our houses, and all of them. Now, technologically speaking, they are all what we call electromagnetic wave components. They either transmit or receive. So we call them either a transmitter or a receiver or transceivers if you do both, which most of them do, okay? Now, they all come from about the same family. However, this family is graduated over a period. You would have heard about the different types of waves or electromagnetic spectrum spread, which starts from the very low spectrums to the very high spectrums. And the low spectrums, of course, will include the very ones we use today for our handsets, 2G and 3G, which are the low bands, to the very extreme bands, that are used for things like X-ray. So it is broadly divided into what we call the ionizing and non-ionizing spectrums. Ionizing, meaning those spectrums or electromagnetic waves that have capacity to alter the basic components of humans, for instance, or substances that they act upon. And then the non-ionizing, which is where the low bands will fall into. Now, beyond this, also, everything wave, like I've said, means it has the ability to propagate and has its inherent impact when it's moving on the air. Whether it is radio that we listen to or the existing 2G, 3G that we use. Above all this, what happens is that there are established bodies and standards that define what extent that are applied that can be used and whether or not they will have impact. And I will give a classical example of something. I had somebody who is working for me who is doing cleaning, okay, who came to do cleaning for me, for instance. And he brought in hydrochloric acid. I'm sure everybody knows what many people know hydrochloric acid is. This is one of the most corrosive acids you can think about. Mm-hmm. However, you need hydrochloric acid. If you touch it, see your body is burnt. If you drop a drop of hydrochloric acid, parts per million, for instance, in your water, you can actually drink it. And in fact, hydrochloric acid and chlorine, which is what the hydrochloric acid is made of, is what is used in the purification of water. During the era of, as we are today, in era of COVID-19, the bulk of the disinfectants, for instance, also that are used for disinfecting maybe houses or some other things, contain chlorine, which is the same very harmful hazardous component. What is important is that the mixture of this chlorine that you put in the one you're going to use to wipe your car, or wipe your table in the office, or wipe your floor, or even wipe your metal substances will vary. And if you measure them well and use the right proportions, even though hydrochloric acid may be corrosive, hydrochloric acid can as well be used to treat something that we use in your household. So that's why I started by laying a foundation of the broad spectrum of the electromagnetic wave, from the very low to the very high, non-ionizing to ionizing, and all the rest of them. So with that foundation, now GSM, which is where we started, use the low spectrums, whether 2G, 3G, or 4G. And the good thing, actually, as we're discussing, is that the 5G will be using most of the same spectrums. And I'll give an example. For instance, the 700 megahertz is already used to transmit today, which is one of the spectrums that is available for 5G. Another spectrum that is available for 5G in Africa and sub-Saharan, some parts of Latin America, for instance, is the 2.6 gigahertz, which is actually also used for 4G in Nigeria. Another one is the 3.5 gigahertz, which is actually being used in Nigeria for fixed wireless access, and it is already being used in fact, all our fixed wireless accesses in Nigeria are using this. So the answer is, what is the difference in the use of these things? Really, not much of a difference. Whether you are using it to transmit in a better way, to give you better spectral efficiency, use it to serve more people over the same space of time, using an improvement on the technology. But that said, I'm an engineer, okay? Experts whose job it is globally to look at these spectrums, these devices, what should they contain? What proportion of this should they contain? What power should they contain? You know, the sun, for instance, is a consuming fire if you were to sit close to the sun. But you need a sun on Earth to grow, for your plants to grow and all the rest of it. So these people define, and what you can be assured of is that what is being implemented has undergone this test, these standardizations to ensure that they are safe and have no serious adverse effect on the humans. And just for our own understanding, it goes beyond the global bodies. Recently, a trial of the 5G was done in Nigeria, and that trial was done by a composition of different stakeholders, including those in the health, in the environment, in government, of course, in the mobile environment, and all the rest of them. Even before, I mean, the last time the Honorable Minister for Communication and Digital Economy confirmed that the report is undergoing different studies by different stakeholders, so that decisions can be taken jointly based on evidence-based decisions, not based on speculations and imaginations. And information is better managed by those who understand, but is more widely spread by those who don't understand. So yes, this is what it is about the 4G or 5G or 2G, its impact on health, base stations, where they're located. There is actually no significant difference between a 4G, 3G, 2G, or 1G, as it were.
Okay, so Sam, let me. A lot has been said about security. Government using the 5G to, obtain information, surveillance, of people and institution. What would you say to that? Especially some of the organizations that you have relationship with has been accused that they are likely to peep into people's life and other government. What would you say to that?
I think technology, as we rightly said, is neither good or bad, but it's the application of technology is what is very key. All right, technology is good, it can be bad, depending on the application. I cannot stay here to actually defend anybody in terms of things like espionage and all that. But one thing you should know is that in ICT, there's what we call your data security. All right, and it's the responsibility of every organization to enhance their security of their data. All right, quite a lot of applications have been put in place in order to ensure there is no leakage of data. So if that happens, definitely there's a compromise along the line. Yes, government, we know in practice that you have also possibility of having to tap into people's network and all that in order to gain conversations, in order to maybe get some data and all that. It's possible. So it's all about the application of technology. So you can use it for good. You can also use it for bad.
Okay, very good. And I want to commend you guys for being very honest and upfront with the information you have. We have very limited number of people on the platform. When we come back, we'll open up the space, and if you have a question, you can ask question, or maybe send us a comment from the social media, and I will direct your questions or comments to my guest. So stand by. When we come back, the webinar will continue. Just stand by.
It's exciting, it's educative, and engaging. Get master information on Wisdom Masterclass webinar, 7 o'clock every Sunday evening with your host, Jake Epele, CEO and founder, the Albino Foundation. Wisdom Masterclass webinar, live on Zoom, Facebook, and other social media platforms. Topics that will stir you up, take you right to the next level. For more information, send email to jake@albinofoundation.org or call 0803 533 5444. That is 0803 533 5444. Get reality on a virtual platform. Join the virtual trade. Don't be told. Get wisdom only on Wisdom Masterclass webinar, poised to take you to the next level.
All right. You are still watching Wisdom Masterclass. Next week will be a bumper edition, and we will be focusing on the outcome of the Edo election and the expectations of the Ondo elections. I will bring on this webinar people that are on ground in Benin City and the entire Edo state, and we will share knowledge and experience about what happened. I will be particularly looking at disability inclusion. Was persons with disability included in the process? There's been another lineup that we're looking at. The following week, I'll come with how you can find Ivy universities, Ivy League universities in America, get scholarship and send your kids to Ivy League universities. And talking about, in my research, I was shocked to know that Stanford University is not recognized as Ivy League, but yet they are the third best university in America. So not necessarily that you are in Ivy League that makes you the very best. All right, so stay back. My guests are still here. They're not going anywhere until the next 22 minutes. So stay with us. If you are watching and you have a question, please, this is the time. My audience, I have just very limited audience. I wonder why people will register and they will not show up to be part of the webinar, but that's fine. We have a huge number of audience on our social media handle. Thank you so much. All right. So if you have a question, there's a question box. You can drop the question, but if you want to ask the question yourself, and I'm talking about those of you in the audience, you can touch the button and lift up your hands, and I will open your microphone, and you will be able to ask the question all by yourself. While we wait for you to do that, let's get back, gentlemen, to the myth, all of the myth that we've heard. Sam, I'll begin with you. You're a pastor. It was said that 5G is coming from the pit of hell. It will usher in the Antichrist. Is that correct?
Okay, personally, just as I earlier mentioned, Daniel 12:4 talks about increase in knowledge, towards the later years or end time. And nature, of course, has a way of pushing up or making this evolution to come to bear. And so the coronavirus somehow tried to change the narrative, but at the same time, tried to change the way things are being done in the world. Today, we're able to converse by reason of technology. And so the question we put across to people who said the 5G is to usher in the end of the time. The question is, can we stop the end of the time? And the answer is no. Can we stop the Antichrist? The Bible is very clear to tell us that these things will happen. So when you see things happening that the Bible has specified, has mentioned, that tells you that the Bible is real. This is my own, understanding. So some of the things that have been stated out in the Bible, the occurrences, definitely those things will have to occur, all right? But things have to trigger them. Things have to enhance them to make those things to come to pass. And so, in summary, if we cannot stop it, the Bible has said this will surely come to pass. What we can only do is for us to prepare ourselves, all right? How do we get engaged? How do we get informed, of the occurrence of times? For every season, it's very clear for us that there are times and there are seasons. And so it's just for us to have that understanding of the season we are in and what we need to do in order, either you take advantage of the season at the same time so that the season does not also take advantage of you. Because what has happened in recent times is that the season began to take advantage of people for lack of information. And you saw people going to dismantle masts. You saw people, I saw a lot of videos where somebody even said, go and take salt. Wherever you see any mast that they're mounting, take salt, take oil, pour at the base of it. So you can see that the season is actually taking advantage of people by reason of what? Lack of knowledge. That is clear. The scripture says that my people perish for what? Lack of what? Knowledge. And so as knowledge is increasing.
Tom, hold your thoughts. Okay, was lifting up his hand. Okay, Carlo, my good friend, can you unmute yourself so that we can have you make intervention? A lot of you have brought in to make your intervention. Okay?
Hello.
Okay, go ahead.
Good evening, everybody. And many thanks to, good evening, everybody. Thank you, Pastor Jake, for bringing me on. Thank you to Engineer Samuel Suji and Samuel Oji. I've been able to learn a few things about the 5G technology, things I never knew before now. However, I have a problem, and that problem is the fact that I had thought with their huge knowledge of this technology, they were going to douse some of the fears, anxieties that we have had, or personally have had, about this 5G technology. But that doesn't seem to be the case. From even from what Mr. Samuel Oji just said now, he has even heightened the fears, the anxieties about the inappropriateness, in quotes, of this 5G technology. Yes, it has its huge advantages and benefits. But then there's something in between. There's a gray area that nobody has actually touched about. I listened to the Minister for Communication talk about 5G. I've listened to my friend Henry Nkemado of NCC talk about the 5G technology. I've read, across board from different people, both in Nigeria and overseas, about the 5G technology. But there seems to be a gap somewhere. And that gap is what creates the myths, the fears about the technology. So I had thought the experts we have in the house now this evening would have doused those fears. Thank you.
No, okay. Tell us what are those fears that you have, so that either Engineer Osuji or Oji can answer it. What are those fears?
Okay. Some of them may sound crazy, but there's been this tie-in between the COVID-19 pandemic and 5G technology. And when I talk about conspiracy theories, these are the things I mean. One, about the connection between, I don't know how that had happened. I don't know how the technology will bring about a viral infection or pandemics as it were. Then there's this issue about the technology and the world government or the Antichrist, which we try to talk about here. So for me, these are gray areas that need to be strengthened. Thank you.
So fine. Let me go to Osuji. Can you address the issue, the conspiracy theory of 5G and coronavirus? And then I'll come back to Sam and let you address the issue of 5G and the world government, which have been a case concern.
Right. Thank you, okay, for the question, of course, of the COVID-19 and technology of 5G. The difference really is that some of us will speak from expert position or knowledge position. Okay, the easiest thing to contrive is theory, like I started by how they told us that daytime running light belongs to an occult kingdom, and if the light flashes, it will cause you a problem. And because the person who says it probably doesn't even understand how the light system mechanism of a car works. And another person who also didn't understand and didn't have the time to go and check, believed that it's possible. And the real thing about the human being is that anything we are not able to completely rationalize is easier to philosophize and ascribe them to the spirits. Okay, and this is our culture. Okay, if somebody dies in my village and I am not able to decipher what killed him, the safe place to be is to ascribe it to the spirits of my village or to somebody who is pursuing you. Then it explains it. It seems to provide a completely acceptable and suitable solution to anything we don't understand. And this is what a lot of people have played on. I mean, because why we don't dwell so much on some of these things is that once you make the barest effort to think, you will know that it's not possible. Yeah, it is conspiracy theory. Somebody is conjuring something. For instance, today, COVID-19 is clearly known to be a virus. Even if you are not a medical expert, I am not one, but I know there's a difference in a virus and a communication system. The funniest thing is, and when people give you conspiracy theories, they end up not even giving you explanation or solution, okay? And they just say it so that they gullible mind. Today, why we don't discuss it, it's very clear that COVID-19 is a virus, like so many other viruses. Some people are claiming to have some treatments at least, whether it is generally accepted yet or not. There are trials of vaccines going on, okay? And there is none that has tried to now link it to the technology. And all the people that started when there was a lot of ignorance, which is what the people perished for, that didn't test it, they are no longer advancing it. So they should have continued to tell us the relationship between a 5G, for instance, and COVID-19. Maybe when another disease will break out in the next 5, 10, 20 years, they will link it to the technology that will come then. And if you're alive, then you will now smile when you hear it. So my brother, to the best of available information today, evidence-based studies, and what we know today, there is absolutely no relationship. So why should we even join arguments. For instance, why should I do an argument with somebody who probably has never seen technology work before? I've gone to the US, I've gone to China, Europe, testing 5G, checking it, doing what. If there was any person 5G will catch up first, it should have been me. Okay, I should have had Corona, because as early as from 2018, 2017, we were going to the labs, different parts of the world, testing 5G, checking it, studying it. The trial that was done in Nigeria, yours sincerely was part of it. I was there live. If there was any person that would get Corona because of 5G, maybe I should have been the first person. So it's not. There's no relationship. And we don't intend to join discussions.
It's simply, there's no truth in it. So now, Sam, incidentally, also a pastor. Let's talk about 5G and the world government. When I mean the world government, we're talking about the government where the Antichrist will reign supreme. And hold your thoughts. It will be just for a while. So, Sam, give me your thoughts on that.
All right. Many thanks. Yeah, though we're discussing technology here, and technology, of course, there's always a God factor in everything we're doing, and it's very, very important. And so, concerning the New World Order, I made a statement, right? If the Bible has actually made it very clear that this is the sequence of events, and that these things will occur, and I've been very specific about the things to watch out, when these occurrences will happen. And also for the believer, it is very clear that anyone who is a believer is not supposed to experience the Antichrist. And so while we are still here, while you and I who are believers and many who shall believe are still here on earth, means that the Antichrist will not come to pass unless the scriptures is wrong. But I know that scriptures cannot be broken. And so allaying that fear for anyone. And it's also important for us now to go back to really and study. And so by the time you study the scriptures, you have a clear understanding of the sequence of events. And it's very clear that when that will happen, you and I will not be here. So why should I get into that panic mode when I know my right standing with God as it stands today? And that for me to be here means the Antichrist is not yet time for the person to come. So that is one that is actually trying to diffuse that myth. Very, very clear that it's all about economical war. So just align with what Uche has said. There is no relationship between COVID and the 5G technology. The 5G technology, as estimated, it's over $500 billion to $1 trillion in terms of investment and revenue. It's a huge market. It's a huge cake. And so there's a lot of fights over who controls what. And it's very, very important so that you understand where most of the conspiracy theories are coming from. Today, nobody's even talking about the impact of COVID. What we're talking about right now, who owns the market share? Who controls this field of technology as it stands today? I mean, $1 trillion is not $1. And so it's very, very important for us to understand this. And so that will help us to diffuse most of the myth that is being pushed out there. So there's some form of what we call the distraction. All right? People are being distracted from the real thing. Why the OEMs? The truth is that the OEMs who are involved in the 5G technology are investing heavily each day in order to advance this technology. I don't need to mention names on this platform, but it's very clear that amongst the 3 top global OEMs who are involved in the 5G network, they're not slacking, they're not slowing down in pushing out, their products and solutions in order to capture this very huge market. So, my brother, okay, there shouldn't be any fear. But what is very, very important is that all things will work together. All right. God will always use. He has given us all things that pertain to life and godliness. He has given us the wisdom to make things to happen. He has given us the wisdom to produce things. And so today, a very simple narrative. Jesus rode on camel. All right. We're not riding today on camel to do our evangelism work. We're flying on planes. Very soon, by the reason of what technology has actually brought us today, people are reaching to many more a lot of audience by the reason of the Zoom technology. I can sit in the comfort of my home and have my meeting without having to step an inch out of my workspace. This is where we have gotten to in terms of increase in knowledge, in terms of increase in the dispersion of information to as many as possible.
Wow, excellent. If you are watching us, you have 1 minute to lift up your hands and ask questions. Right? We are about to round up, and this has been a very interesting, very information sharing and experience discussion. Gentlemen, we have just a few minutes to go, 2 minutes to go, and I would like Engineer Suji to give me a closing thought, 30 seconds closing thoughts, and then Samuel will do a 30-second closing thoughts. Engineer Suji, you're muted. Go ahead.
All right, thank you so much. So, listeners, my closing thoughts are very simple. 5G is a technology like all other technologies that followed it. It is almost riding on the same platforms and on the same systems and is working the same way. There is nothing spectacular about 5G that will cause any panic. It is always easy to try to ascribe things we don't understand to things that are spiritual or to create panic and as a way of becoming sometimes relevant. That today 5G is being used in many parts of the world. Nigeria has trialed it. All stakeholders are studying it. Everybody will come with their experts, evidence-based opinions and positions. And then we prepare ourselves. 5G promises a lot of good. Let's prepare for it. Let's take the real issues, the facts, and forget about the speculations and the myths. Thank you.
Samuel.
All right, thank you so much, Pastor Jay, for this opportunity to dispense wisdom and disseminate information. From the technology point of view, we're in the era of AI, artificial intelligence. We're in the era of 5G. We're in the era of cloud. Let me just say this joke. Well, it's not a joke, it's reality. One director, his ICT guys were pushing him that, guys, it's time for us to go to the cloud. Let's put our data in the cloud. Let's put our data in the cloud. And the man said, he was resistant. After some time, he said, what if rain begins to fall? What will happen to our data that is in the cloud? So that is to tell you that things have involved. We need to gain information, need to gain knowledge in order to make well-informed decisions moving forward. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, guys. Thank you. It's been a wonderful time. We've just 60 seconds on top of the hour, and I want to thank everyone for watching. And please stay tuned next week. Next week, we will look at the election, and we will project into the Ondo election as it relates to persons with disability. But before I go, let me ask you a question. What relationship do you have with your maker? Do you know Jesus as your Lord and Savior? This is a question that only you will answer. And my advice to you is to embrace Him, know Him. I did that several years ago, and I've never regretted it. God bless you. Have a good evening. My guest, thank you so much for being part of this broadcast. God bless you.
It's exciting, it's educative and engaging. Get master information on Wisdom Masterclass webinar, 7 o'clock every Sunday evening with your host, Jake Epele, CEO and founder, the Albino Foundation. Wisdom Masterclass webinar live on Zoom, Facebook, and other social media platforms. Topics that will stir you up, take you right to the next level. For more information, send email to jake@albinofoundation.org or call 0803 533 5444. That is 0803 533 5444. Get reality on a virtual platform. Join the virtual train. Don't be told. Get wisdom only on Wisdom Masterclass webinar, poised to take you to the next level.
Okay, thank you guys.
guys. Thank you, Engineer Che. Thank you so much. Okay, thank you, my good friend. Sam, thanks. Right. Yeah, we'll just keep looking, and I may bring you guys back to the program on another day. So you can